ask you a few things about the Great Escape. So, obviously, with the final game, last minute winner to keep the club up in the.
I don't like talking about
it. I wanted to ask, what was it like before the run, where you're bottom of the table and you've lost to Leyton Orient 4-0, and you're like, we've got a job on our hands. What was that like?
Yeah, it was strange because, like I said, that season was kind of like exactly what I always say football is. It's such a roller coaster. Like the first 6 months of that season, I was in the stand for Luton for 6 months straight, not getting a single look in, thinking I'm going to go back to Ireland. Like there's nothing over here for me. And then I get a chance of coming to Newport. And I knew the circumstances of what I was coming into. And like 11 of the other new signings that he made all knew the circumstances that we were coming in for. But he kind of sold it to us at the time, Graham Wesley. He sold it to us as, lads, this is a big task, but we need characters that are going to come in and want to fight and want to play for the team and want to create history and to an extent, because it's going to be like a tough ask. So you kind of like take it on yourself to think, right, you don't want the relegation on your CV as a footballer, and you're thinking, right, this is going to be a tough one. And then, like you say, as the weeks go past and we get a couple of draws in and nothing's quite changing. And then that Leyton Orient game, I'll never forget. It was when we were out playing, we had like 4 centre-backs across the back line. There was Mickey left back, me, Darren Jones, and Sid Nelson right back. So I think a recipe for disaster in some ways. And that's where Tristan made his debut that day in the league against us. So that's how like I kind of knew all about Tristan like before he came in. And then when that game goes 4-0 and then your manager gets sacked, you're thinking, oh, what's going to happen here? But like when the gaffer came in, it was more of the fact of he just brought a belief in. He brought in like positivity of saying, right, lads, we're in a bit of a dogfight here. We're in this, right? All we can do is take it game to game and keep going. And then the more that we picked up a 1-0 away at Morecambe, we pick up a 1-0 away at Crewe. Then you pick up a 1-0 again against Crawley at home, and then you pick up another 1-0 against Yeovil at home, and you're starting to think, right, hang on a second. Like the way I kind of dealt with it in my head was I was thinking until the Sky table says relegated next to your name, there's always a chance. No matter how much of a chance there is, even if it's a 1% chance, I always thought there's definitely going to be a chance. And then like the games kept falling into our laps, and then you'd have a bit of a setback where you get beaten by Portsmouth away and you get beaten by Plymouth away, and you're thinking to yourself, right. But at that same time, the times we slipped up, Hartlepool slipped up, so they never got away from us. And that whole run-in just felt as though the momentum was building, and we were thinking, no, we actually still have a great chance here. And it wasn't until the second last game of the season against Carlisle that the newspapers and BBC Wales and Sky Sports only start picking up, thinking Newport could actually do this. So it was kind of played into our favour that nobody gave us a chance. They were basically waiting on the day that we were going to get relegated, and it wasn't until the 2 last games we started getting media coverage for it. And then once we got that media coverage, like you say, it was like written in the stars that I had to go down to the very last day, where you're thinking, right, this is an all or nothing game. You either get relegated or you don't. So in itself, it's a little mini cup final. You go out, give it your all. It was the first time I've ever seen Rodney Parade that whole season, like full of fans, because it went from, we had like 1,000, 1,500, and then all of a sudden you turn up for that game on the Saturday, you hear it sold out and you see 7,500 people, and you're thinking, hang on a second. And then, like you say, the game is going, like I remember bits of the game because there was that much nervousness, excitement, everything around it. The fact of you go into that game and then you're thinking to yourself, right, this needs to happen. This is like all or nothing. And then the game starts going, everything according to plan. Mickey scores a penalty, which nobody remembers, which I always keep reminding them of. But Mickey scored the penalty and everything was going perfectly fine. And then all of a sudden they scored the equaliser. And then you're still hearing from the sidelines, everything's fine. Hartlepool are drawn their game, everything's okay. And then you have 7 minutes to go. You see the manager bringing on 2 strikers, and then you hear everyone shouting from the side, "Get the ball forward." Hartlepool have just scored. So you're thinking, it can't end like this. Like, literally, we've gone 6 months of like grafting ourselves and putting like so much work into keeping ourselves up, and to lose it on the last day, like, you would have rather getting relegated 2 months before. If you were going to finish that way, you'd rather be relegated already than to be relegated in that kind of fashion, to feel like you were so close. And then, like you say, it was something where it was the last couple of minutes, and Wayne Hatswell like looked over at me from the sideline and said, "Go on up front." And I thought, all right, like, because I'd done it the week before, and it was mainly to go up front and maybe win a flick on for one of the strikers to run onto it, or just be a bit of a nuisance kind of thing. And like, not many people remember it, but I always even say it about Labs. Like, the ball comes out to the edge of the box, and how he pulls it out of Sky first time and touches it out wide the pipe, and you're thinking to yourself, right, that's the start of it. And then the pipe to put across in perfectly with his left foot, you're thinking, right, how has that happened? And I just remember it flicking up in front of me, and as I chested it, I knew Aaron Williams was standing next to me, and I thought, he's going to try and swing for this. But he kind of steps back, and as you say, when I watch back the goal, obviously it's still like great to watch it back, but then to see how close that Notts County defender was, Timmy, where you think, how has he not blocked it, or how has he not got a leg to it to put it wide? And them kind of moments make you think to yourself, it definitely was meant to be. So whether it was me scoring or somebody else scoring, us staying up was meant to be, because that whole 6 months, when you feel as though when we messed up in a game or when we like dropped points in a game, Hartlepool were doing exactly the same. So I think that whole run-in for that, like, it's something where it's so hard to explain, because it felt like a promotion in a relegation battle. It was so strange, but it was probably one of the best relieved feelings, and also like excitement and everything feelings I've ever had at the end of football. Like, it was probably one of the only times you were close to tears of joy, where like I've never cried out. The only time I've actually cried at football was the Wembley game when I got sent off, because I felt as though like I've messed everything up and everything is terrible. But that moment in itself was one of those where it was just like relief. It felt like a weight off your shoulders. Like, yeah, it was great that we stayed up, but it felt like, right, those 6 months, that was a tough, like, we don't want to be in that position again. And like you say, year after year, we've just gotten better and better.
Yeah, like you said, being in the crowd, obviously we have our phones. We can see like Hartlepool scored in the 83rd minute, but obviously you on the pitch, you've got to focus on the game and think about that result as well. So was it the management team that actually were like, "Oh, this is the result," or was it mainly the crowd that were actually telling you what the result was and what the score is?
It was more to the crowd, because like you say, when you're over on the Hazel side and everyone's so close to the pitch along there, I remember the ball was going out of play, or Joe Day went down and like he came out for the cross and he landed heavily on his hip. But I remember the gaffer was bringing on 2 strikers, and I think someone passed a message on saying, we need to go for it. So we were dragging Joe up, and like you say, we didn't want it to turn into panic stations, but it almost felt like panic stations, because we didn't want it to end like that. We didn't want it to come to that kind of ending where you're thinking to yourself, like, we've come this far, lads. We if we are going to go down, we need to go down with a fight. But like you say, it could have fallen to anybody. And like I say, it was something. It was the summer before then. Ireland played against Italy in the Euros, and I'll never forget it. When they played them, and you see Robbie Brady scored when I remember I was in the pub watching it with my friends, and Robbie Brady scores the last minute winner for Ireland, and everybody's up hugging and celebrating. It's like Aguero when he scored his last minute. And I always thought to myself, you know what, I'd love a feeling like that, to see what it's like, just like scoring a last minute winner. And then on the Friday before we played Notts County, I scored a chest and a volley in training. And then everyone was obviously bantering me, saying, "Oh, you're at that wasting it. You should have saved that till tomorrow." And I was like, I'll never be able to do that again. And then, like you say, it happens, and I was the one who scored the goal. And like as everyone says, like, the rest does be history. But it was more of a anyone could have scored, because you've seen the celebrations afterwards. Everyone was just jumping everywhere, so it didn't matter who scored. Like even after the game, we were all in the change room celebrating, and I went over to Joe Day and I was like, oh my God, like thankfully we stayed up. And he ended up sitting next to me. He goes, who scored the goal? Like I was, Joe, it was me. He goes, no way, you didn't score that. And I was like, yeah. And then me and him just started laughing about it, because he said he was like that emotional and that wound up. He said he ran celebrating into the crowd and everything. He said he just hadn't got a clue what was going on. But like you say, it was just one of those moments in football that you could probably do it 100 times over and it probably wouldn't go in, or it'll block by the defender, or like somebody will kick it over, or something would go wrong. The cross doesn't come in perfectly, but just that one moment that we needed everything to go perfect, it did.
Obviously, after scoring such like big winner, keeping the club up, how did you celebrate? In style, or?
No, I went home to my hotel room and just had an early night. No, that night was like a night that I will always remember, but don't remember. We just went out and we just celebrated. Like I remember we went into the town, like as a team and stuff like that, and we went into a pub in Newport, and the fans were in there setting off flares and everyone singing and dancing, and like you say, it was just an atmosphere that felt like a promotion. Like, and that was the closest thing where you're thinking, if this is just staying up from a relegation on the last day of the season, what can a promotion feel like? And that night in itself, we just celebrated and everybody was just so happy. And it was more of a and breathe moment and like relax, and we can enjoy it now and we can regroup and get ourselves ready for next season, rather than thinking about the relegation or the build up and everything that was going on. Like it was just all mixed emotions, all just coming out for one night, and it was brilliant.
And obviously scoring a massive goal in the 89th minute. Like obviously when you scored it, emotion's going to be high. But when did it actually like settle in that like how important of a goal was it actually like for the club? Because they might still have been the conference win for that goal.
It didn't settle in for a long time. I remember when the goal went in, and the reason I probably celebrated as mad as I did, yeah, it was a winner and stuff like that, but that was my first ever professional goal.
Yeah.
So not a lot of people knew that. People were thinking, if that's your first goal, Jesus, like it was a great finish. But it didn't really sink in for a while, the like whole significance of the goal, because like I was more relieved that we didn't get relegated. Like all the hard work that we done, it was a relief that we didn't get relegated. And then on another side of that, it was another relief thinking, hopefully Newport will sign me, because I was out of contract that summer.
Yeah.
So I was hoping hopefully Newport will sign me now, and I've given myself a chance to have like a career in League Two now, because Luton, like obviously we're getting rid of me. So then when I seen the bigger picture of when I signed for Newport, and then like you say, you see the academy side of things, and you see county of the community, you see all of these different things where I had people coming over to me saying, see, if you never scored that goal, I'd be out of a job, and so would be out of a job, and we wouldn't have an academy, or maybe the club wouldn't have survived. And I never realised how big of a goal it was. Like me just thinking, right, we saved ourselves from relegation, it's a great party, it's this, that, let's go next season. But there was a lot more to it that I never knew. And to say like I was part of something so historic as that, to say like the whole club could have just went under because of it, or certain people might have lost a job because of it. Like it makes it that bit more special, and it's really nice to look back on it that way.
And obviously, like during the game and like before the game, you heard on the microphones that like not the fans can't come on the pitch, but obviously scoring an 89th minute winner. How like good was it to actually celebrate on the pitch with the fans?
Oh no, it was brilliant. Like, in that kind of moment in itself, like I'll never forget. It was one of them where once the final whistle went, I have a picture of it on my phone and all. Like it was something where I fell to me back, and I just put my hands over my face, and I couldn't believe it. Mickey jumped on top of me. Benno came in and jumped on top of me, and Aaron Williams came in, and Ryan Board came in, and we were all just laying in one big pile. The manager ran over, started celebrating, and then all of a sudden I was holding on to Mickey, and I was just saying, "Don't move." I said, and my head is about to get stood on by about 50 fans, because everyone just starts like running about, and everyone. And that was the moment where I said, that almost brings you close to tears, and you see how happy everyone is, and you see how relieved everyone is, and you see how kind of relaxed, or that like everything just came out all in one big emotion. And like you say, it was something that if there's a day to relive in football again, like obviously in some aspects I wouldn't want to relive it, because the whole build up to it, I was like on the edge, like I could hardly sleep the night before, and you have all these things going through your head. But then to relive those moments of a last minute winner and the relief and joy that came out of it, like I'd love to relive all them moments again. Like,
speaking after those, and you've said already that now you are in retirement, how has life been being in retirement and just having to sit and watch the games go on at the moment?
it's tough being in retirement. Like, it was a decision that was always going to be made, due to like obviously the heart problems that I've had. So I always knew, like when I used to play, like each season I played, after the end of that season, I used to get a heart scan to make sure I could play the following season. So my career was always timed, but I just didn't know where it was going to finish. So I always came to terms with knowing I'd have to retire at some stage earlier than I wanted. But don't get me wrong, it does be tough sitting there watching games, or like you say, you see them play against the Newcastles and you see them play week in, week out, and you're still sitting, you're kicking every ball and you're winning, you're trying to win every last header, and you're trying to still speak with the lads. But the fact that I'm allowed to be in the training ground, and like I do sit in the analysis room with the analysis, and as we're like going through games and like I'm picking out things to think, oh, that'll be a good one to show, and it's learning different experiences as I'm going along now, and I'm just trying to keep myself busy. And it's actually been enjoyable, because it's the closest thing I get to actually playing again, and I'm still in and feeling part of the group, but like also I'm not part of the group. So it's that kind of bridge between playing and not playing, whereas I still feel as though I'm a player, but I only get to watch now and not actually play. So I'm not finding it too difficult, but obviously at the same time, if I wasn't doing commentary, I'm sure I'll be saying a lot more swear words when I'm watching a game of football than I do when I'm sitting there doing the commentary.
Do you have any immediate plans to go into coaching?
I wouldn't say I have any immediate plans going into coaching. It's something where maybe this season I'll try and get some coaching badges and stuff like that done this season. But I think also for myself first, I'm trying to like make myself feel that bit more fitter and healthier ever since the operation. So until I start feeling more confident and comfortable in myself, I'm going to like kind of keep doing the experiences, because as I said, I'm enjoying going into the analysis room with Jason doing the analysis, and I like going to do the commentary and speaking about football. Like I like doing all them kind of things. So along with that, if I had coaching badges, it gives me different options that I can turn around and say, right, if somebody wants me to do a bit of commentary, I'll be confident enough to go do that. If somebody wants me to speak media-wise, I can go do that. And also, if I do end up like wanting to go down the coaching route, I just want to be kind of feeling fitter and better in myself before I make that decision. And until then, I think I'm just comfortable and confident and happy with what I'm doing now.
Is there a preference out of any of those options that you'd want to go into one day, or is it just you're happy doing all three of them at the moment?
Like, I'm happy doing all three at the moment, but I think if I did have to pick one, I would love to be in some sort of media to speak about football and to speak about the ups and the downs, to speak about like how great football can be, to speak about games on Newport, to learn about other football teams and how to speak about like analysing things, like because I do enjoy speaking about experiences, and like football was always my life since I moved away, and it's all I've ever known. So I know it's whatever direction I go down, I want it to be due to football. And if that means go around speaking to people about if you retire early, or like if someone gets a bad injury, like it's not the end of the world, all them kind of different things that are out there for mental health kind of things. Because I've had me ups and downs over the last couple of months as well, and I've had like a couple of the lads, I've had the club help me out, and just I've had other people who've retired early helping me out, and like you say, if I can be that kind of inspiration to somebody else who's not in football or outside of football that want to sit and speak to me and talk, well, and if I gave them that bit of a confidence boost to say, well, you know what, if a professional footballer has had the same operation I've had, or if he's having anxiety like I had, well, if he's after getting over it, I can. Because if he's a professional footballer and supposedly has like the best job in the world and he can feel anxious, well, then I shouldn't feel so bad about myself feeling anxious. Like all different like scenarios like that. If I'm able to kind of be, even if me speaking about my certain problems or opening up about certain things helps one person, I said I'm more than happy to do that. But I just think along the lines of media would be something that like I'd like would interest me, because as I said, speaking about football, just I feel in a comfort zone.
Right. What's the most difficult striker you've played against?
I'd say in my full career, like there's been a couple that have like caught me off guard a bit. Like when I was at Derby, playing against Ricky Lambert for the first time, he was very tricky. For like different aspects of just being a big man, target man, but his movement was really good. I remember when I played against, when Redden had, I only spoke with Matty Dolan about this, when Redden had the striker Adam Lafondra, his movement and how sharp he was, like kind of taught me a lesson on like you have to stick tight to people in the box, and you can't just like take it for granted that someone's going to mess a cross up. Lucas Jukovic, when he played for Coventry, I was only 18 at the time, and that taught me a massive lesson on being a centre-back, because it was somebody that if you want to get tight to him, he would have went down easily. If you stepped off him, he took it down on his chest. If you didn't challenge him for a header, he's flicking it on. If you did challenge him for a header, he goes down easily. So he done everything that I wasn't used to somebody doing. And that taught me a massive lesson. But I think out of all the strikers that like I can reel off, the most difficult, or like you say, somebody who like you could drop a name with, Jesus. But I'd say my toughest opponent would have been David Silva. I know he played centre midfield, but he played in that kind of position where, as a defender, do you step into mark him? Do you not? Do you go near them? Do you not? Even the same as like Gabriel Jesus. Like he would drop off into spaces that you didn't know if you could go into, and then if you went into them spaces, he's running in behind, and his movement in the box, like there's just a lot of experiences along the way that kind of mold you into like being the centre back that you are, or being the player that you are. And that's why I always say that when people are playing, you can't judge them off a couple of games. You have to like let them gain some sort of experience and push on with it. But I do think the likes of Jesus, that Man City game, I could name the whole starting 11. That was a tough opponent.
Who do you think is the best player currently in the Newport squad?
No, that's not putting me on the spot at all, is it? Oh my God. There's all like for particular areas, there's certain people who are good at different things. And I don't know, I'd say technically and how his game has come on over the last couple of years and knowing him, it would have to be Josh Sheehan. Like he's like a magician. I used to always call him, like I used to always say that like he plays too foreign to be Welsh. He plays like he plays like he's Isco. He plays like he's Spanish, and I always used to call him Spanish because he turns so quickly. He's so comfortable on the ball. But now that he's adapted his game and he's winning tackles, he's winning headers, he's tracking runners, and he's doing the horrible side, more people are taking notice of him now. Like his whole technical ability has always been there, and a lot of people overlook him. Nowadays, everybody wants someone who can work hard and make tackles. Like being a technically good is a given, supposedly nowadays. But now that he does both sides of the game, like he's somebody that does be unplayable.
And during your time at Newport, who was your favourite centre half partner to play with?
It'd have to be Mickey. Like me and Mickey, like I lived with him, and if I don't say his name, he'd go mad. But no, no, I always enjoyed playing alongside Mickey. Like we kind of complemented each other. Where obviously he's been a left footer playing on the left side, I was right foot playing on the right side. But we kind of just got this click of an understanding together of, right, I know how to cover Mickey when I need to cover him. He knows to cover me. I know to kind of keep Mickey on his toes. If strikers are running down the side of him, he knows how to keep me on my toes. We would argue like mad on the pitch, but off the pitch we were best of mates. And like you say, we just had this relationship and an understanding of, we knew what we were both good and not good at. Like he would be a bit more of the ball player and take it down and play it out from the back. And he would know if anything gets put near me, I was putting it over the stand, no matter how high the stand was. So we kind of had that good understanding where we always just knew how each other played. And like I said, that developed over 3-4 years of playing alongside each other. And no matter who came along and no matter who came in, I was always felt that bit more comfortable playing with Mickey.
What was the best away ground you've been to?
The best away ground? Is that in my career or in League Two?
Yeah, like in your career.
Like it's easy to turn around and say,
Yeah,
Wembley, but I remember when I was on loan at Motherwell, we played Celtic away, and obviously when we played at Celtic Park and there was 55,000 people there, like, because I used to always say back at home, because when you're in Ireland you think Celtic is a given that you need to support, and it was always a stadium you used to see like the Champions League, the likes of Lona and teams like that, and the place used to be rocking, all the fans singing and everything. And I used to look at that and think, I'd love to go and like watch a game of football there. And the first time that I went to Celtic Park was me playing there. So it was kind of one of those like crazy moments, but loved every minute of it. And Brighton Stadium, the Amex. Oh, well, I think it's the Amex. No, it's not. Well, the Brighton Stadium, when they have that new stadium, when I played at that was brilliant. Pride Park, even for a home stadium, when that was like full and the fans were all singing. But the most, I wouldn't say it was intimidating. It was more exciting to play in. It was the East Midlands derby between Derby and Nottingham Forest, and we played at the Forest ground. And I'll never forget it. It was my very first one there. And you're warming up and you're having everyone shouting all sorts at you as you're warming up on the pitch, and it was just an atmosphere of like, it just seemed like hatred. And I remember we won the game with 10 men and we went down to 10 men after the first minute. Our keeper got sent off, and we ended up coming back winning the game 2-1. And it was just one of them games that in an away stadium. I remember when we were driving out and they have like a little pub on the corner and we're all banging on the windows to all the fans that are in the pub. They're throwing their pint glasses at the bus, like everything. It was crazy. It was good though. But yeah, like for a stadium, I'd say Celtic Park was really good for me.
And obviously, it's 30 days. Do you think Newport can go up this season and get promoted?
It's early days, but like from what I've seen, and if everything carries on how it's going and people keep themselves safe with COVID and people keep themselves fit and well with injuries, I think this season is a season that the lads shouldn't underestimate. That they need to realise that this could be like a very, very successful season. And I think if things keep going the way they are, I think that there is a massive opportunity this season, because obviously things are a bit different with COVID, and a lot of teams are going to be so up and down with their starting 11s in case people obviously pick up the virus. So I think it's a massive season for us, where the more games that I'm looking at after the 9 games we played already, I find it difficult to think or look at and go, they'll cause us a problem, or this team are going to cause us a problem, or this team are going to be a handful. Or like each game is going to be really tough, but I find it difficult to see how a side 11 against 11 is going to be better than our 11 how we're playing at the moment. And I think if that continues, I do think that there'll be a great chance of it.
Thank you very much for coming on, Mark. It's been great having you on.
No problem.
That's all we have today. Thank you for listening if you got this far. And